The NBA preseason just wrapped up, which means the next time we'll be watching NBA basketball on our televisions, the 2026 regular season will have officially begun. I'll start off by saying that it is important to not take things that happen in the preseason too seriously, because ultimately they're just glorified scrimmages where the best players only play half the minutes they usually do, and a lot of the sets and game plans are purely experimental to get a feel for how things should be executed when the games start to count. But at the same time, we can at the very least take note of some abnormalities happening both good and bad, and that brings us to today's video, where we will be picking out the 4 biggest winners and the 4 biggest losers from the preseason this year. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Starting off with our first big winner from the preseason games, we have Ace Bailey of the Utah Jazz. Bailey came into preseason with a lot of eyes on him because he was easily one of the most polarizing prospects in this year's draft class, and he slid a few spots back on draft night because of some factors that led many to sour on him a little bit. I myself have been pretty wary of him as a prospect because his shot selection and decision making at Rutgers was pretty poor at times, and he doesn't quite have the handle to maneuver as a primary shot creator, but where he has always thrived on the basketball court is as a shooter, and he's at his best when he's moving off ball, finding space, and making quick decisions off the catch, either to put up a quick shot or a 3, or to take one dribble and get a nice pull-up jumper. Getting him to buy into a primarily off-ball role was not something that I thought Bailey would buy into in his first preseason, but he's already done that, and in his first 2 games, he looked dominant, doing that by dropping 25 points and then 20 points back-to-back. If Bailey can fully embrace being that floor spacing off-ball maestro that cuts hard and doesn't try to do too much off the dribble, then he is going to be a very good player for a very long time. It's just when he starts to over-dribble, that's when he gets himself into trouble, which can be coached out of him, and Jazz coach Will Hardy has been doing a terrific job at that so far. Now over to our first loser of the preseason, we have Scottie Barnes of the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors are coming into the season fully ready to take the leap from the basement of the East and back into the playoff picture based on the moves that they have made. They traded for Brandon Ingram last season and paid him a hefty contract extension, making him their new go-to guy. He and other key players like Emmanuel Quickley are back healthy now, and with Barnes clearly being the piece that the franchise has chosen to build around as a young all-star two-way talent, they're going to need Barnes to return to that all-star form to get to the heights that they want to reach. But he seems to be trending in the wrong direction. Barnes has never necessarily been a good shooter in his career, but last season his shooting numbers took a pretty substantial dip, and he's off to an ice-cold start in the new year in preseason, where he has shot just 20% from the field and missed all 7 of the 3s that he has taken. The Raptors are already facing floor spacing issues, and if one of their best players can't manage to improve even from the 27% shooting from 3 like he did last season, then that is going to suffocate the floor, and it'll also limit the rest of Barnes' strengths, making him easier and more predictable for the defenders to shut down. Now back to our next winner from the preseason, we have Kel'el Ware of the Miami Heat. Ware's rookie season flashed a lot, and I mean a lot, of potential in spurts, but it also came with a ton of growing pains on both ends that often left head coach Erik Spoelstra ripping his hair out. He's got the ridiculous combination of length, size, and athleticism that coaches dream of from a center prospect, but the mental side of the game wasn't quite clicking, and Ware would make too many mental mistakes on defense and wouldn't be able to nail the little things on offense either. Coming back for year 2 fully locked in was crucial for him to take a leap and earn more trust, and so far he's been one of the best players in the entire preseason on any team. He led the entire league during the preseason in rebounding, grabbing 11 boards on average. He flashed a much improved three-point stroke, making 8 total threes in the period, hitting them at a 44% clip. He scored 29 points and then 24 points in back-to-back games, and he did all of this playing fewer than 26 minutes in each of his outings. He may have just won the starting center job, and if the three-point shot is legit, his upside is now sky high as a floor spacing, rim running, athletic rim protector. Now back over to the next loser from preseason, we have the New York Knicks backcourt. I honestly thought the Knicks knocked this offseason out of the park. They already had one of the best starting lineups in the league, and then this summer they went out and addressed the fact that their bench unit was virtually non-existent last season. They signed Gershon Yabusele to bolster their front court, and they brought in both Jordan Clarkson and Malcolm Brogdon to give the backcourt different looks when Jalen Brunson needed rest. Both players are capable ball handlers, but Clarkson has always been the more electric, or should I say erratic, or sometimes both, score-first player that tends to get hot and cold, while Brogdon has historically been the more reliable and steady playmaking threat, and having both of them was a good way to have options based on matchup. But then Malcolm Brogdon retired, and now they are all in on Clarkson as the backup. The retirement news was really a blow that came out of nowhere, and it hurts even more knowing that Russell Westbrook had finally just signed a contract with the Sacramento Kings hours before the news broke, because had they known that Brogdon was not going to be around and he was going to retire, they may have rerouted and tried to sign Russell Westbrook. Now back to our next winner from the preseason, we have Alperen Sengun of the Houston Rockets. Sengun's amazing summer just keeps on rolling, and now he looks ready to take yet another leap this season after being named an All-Star for the first time last year. What has made Sengun such an incredible talent to this point has been his highly advanced skill in the post, both as a passer and a scorer, and his court vision has been compared to Nikola Jokic on a smaller scale. This is expected to be a massive year for Houston overall, after trading for Kevin Durant this summer, but that momentum took a bit of a hit when Fred VanVleet suffered an injury that'll hold him out for a while, which makes their backcourt incredibly thin. They don't have many playmaking options there, which hurts, but the solution may not even have to be a backcourt player at all. With Sengun blossoming across the board, he's also showing that he very well could step into a more Nikola Jokic-esque role on offense, as a hub of creation and playmaking. Sengun actually led the entire preseason in assists per game, dishing out an average of 8.7, doing it in just 24 minutes per game on average. We may be looking at another center entering the walking triple-double club, and that would be a massive relief for the Rockets if he can keep that level of playmaking up under the circumstances. Now, for the next loser of the preseason, we have Jared McCain of the Philadelphia 76ers. Last season, McCain started his rookie year red hot and looked like he was going to run away with the Rookie of the Year award. He was one of the very few bright spots for an otherwise bleak 76ers season, and then he suffered a season-ending injury just 23 games in. McCain was looking ready to get back on the court throughout training camp this year, and his off-ball movement and shooting prowess was going to be a big part of the Sixers' attack this season as they look to bounce back. But then McCain once again suffered an injury to his thumb that has forced him to miss the entire preseason and likely the first few weeks of the regular season. He'll be fine in the long run. It's not a serious injury, but for a team in dire need of some level of consistency and developed chemistry, it hurts a lot that McCain wasn't able to get those preseason reps in to get back into the groove to potentially build off of the hot start that he had to his career. Chemistry on the basketball court only comes from playing together for an extended period of time, and this Sixers core just has not had the chance to play together at full strength pretty much at all yet, due to a variety of injuries and other factors. Now, the final big winner from the preseason we'll be discussing is Brooks Barnhizer of the Oklahoma City Thunder. This may sound like a random one for a video like this, but he deserves his flowers, and I'll tell you why. Barnhizer was a second-round pick in this year's draft, taken by the defending champions, who already had an established rotation deep at every position. There were very few paths to even making the final roster for him, given those two factors that individually both stack the odds heavily against him, and when combined, make things damn near impossible. And yet, through it all, Barnhizer has worked incredibly hard to make his presence felt when he's on the court, and is looking like yet another gem uncovered by the Thunder front office. Barnhizer's high basketball IQ pairs well with relentless defensive intensity, as evidenced by the fact that he generates a lot of steals, along with his impressive ability to move his feet well on defense and rotate his hips and navigate screens, which is a pretty underrated aspect of the game. He's also a terrific rebounder for a guard, grabbing 11 rebounds and then 12 rebounds in back-to-back preseason games, and along with it, he's scoring the ball pretty efficiently as a spot-up shooter and off-ball cutter, hitting 45% of his threes, and doing the little things without the ball in his hands, playing with a high motor, which is exactly how you win over a coaching staff for a contending team as a second-round pick. And finally, the last of the losers from preseason that we'll be discussing today is Dalton Knecht of the Los Angeles Lakers. Knecht was once seen as an explosive scoring punch in the making as a mid-first round pick in last year's draft that was fresh off of a run to the Final Four behind some incredible three-level scoring performances. He has the size, the bounce, and the shot-making skills to buy into in theory, but as time has gone on, he has found himself in the slump of all slumps that has NBA scouts, according to a report from The Athletic, saying that teams around the league now view him as a negative asset. He needed a big summer to boost and bounce back and get his career back on track, but after struggling mightily in the summer league, those struggles have carried over to the preseason, making his spot in the rotation seriously in jeopardy. In 5 preseason games, Knecht has played big minutes in all of them, but is averaging just 9 points per game, shooting 30% from the field and 22% from 3. He was drafted to be a secondary scorer off the bench, and if he can't score the ball anything close to efficiently, then I'm afraid the report I mentioned earlier may be somewhat accurate. He may be a negative asset right now. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who stood out to you the most this preseason. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.